Please note that this video contains spoilers for the subject and the series and/or franchise leading up to this entry. Put off by how long this video is? Don't worry, I try to jam-pack my videos with as much content and as much detail as I possibly can. Anything I feel I can comment on and that I feel you might be interested in, I pretty much put in the video. I try not to repeat myself and talk fairly fast. I either have or will cover other parts of this franchise, and this video either is or will be linked below. I'm not going to restate here what I did or will say in the other video. These videos get long enough as it is. I've reviewed other parts of this franchise. The links are in the description box. I got this either as a present or I got it on discount, so I did not pay very much money for this and am thus not bitter on account of that. Here we go. Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer Thoughts. Or you could shorten it to ROTS, which is fairly... I don't regret watching this movie. This is, as I've said before, this is my first viewing of the movie. I did not watch it in 2007. If I had watched it back then, I might be unhappy with it, but it's hard to get really upset at a comic book movie now that Infinity War has come out and is the best thing ever. And Deadpool 2 was amazing too, so I don't know, you have to work really hard to get me genuinely upset. But I don't think it's that bad of a movie. I think it's, yeah, I'm gonna get more into it. Now, you might be wondering why this video did not come out last Saturday. I guess I jinxed it by announcing the date. My library only got the copy yesterday, even though I had reserved it the 18th of last month. But, you know, it's free as long as you pay taxes, which I obviously do. In fact, I did not do a video last Saturday at all. Since the 24th of last month, my wrists have been especially bad. You know, for those who don't, you know, tennis elbow. My mouse arm does not mouse. Anyway, last Saturday I decided to skip a video to go easy on them. Today my wrists were a lot better. I got treatment yesterday. I think the acupuncturist really nailed it. Really hit the spot. So, getting to the review. Notes taken while watching. There we go. Now, the movie is 1 hour and 23 minutes, 24 if you count the scene after the movie ends. It's not really a post-credit scene, you know, because I guess mid-credit, have the credits start? Anyway, not count, if, you know, if you do count the end credits, it's 1 hour and 28 minutes. And I do also think, I appreciate that about these two movies. Some of these bad comic book movies really hugely outstay their welcome, and both of these are, they keep to a fairly decent pace. Not the fastest maybe, but not slow, and they don't overstay their welcome, and yet they do have a good amount of character and, you know, power use, even if in both movies some of the power use is lame. But yeah, I could definitely think, is Elektra one of the ones that's like 2 hours? That movie has no business being 2 hours long. And yeah, so getting to now, I appreciate that the movie starts by setting up the villain and the stakes. You know, you see a planet being devoured, and it's like, that could be Earth. You know, you don't, I guess, yeah, really, it's the characters who don't know for the next while. Really, the audience, when we see something like that in a science fiction movie that's set on Earth, we're probably gonna figure that that might happen to Earth, you know. Now, but yeah, the first movie had a real problem with villain presence. There was far too little of him. This opening with setup of the villain makes me hopeful that also yeah, makes me hopeful that this will do better. And overall, I think part of the problem is just that so much of the movie, the I mean, the Silver Surfer isn't really the villain as such, but he's the let's go with the villain's right hand. The villain himself really doesn't get to Earth until the last half hour, maybe 20 minutes, something like that. And the right hand man of the villain, for a lot of the movie, he doesn't do anything. He spends a chunk of it in prison where he doesn't do anything. It's not like when... Is it a spoiler to say? Other villains have let themselves get captured and they actually do something, from captivity. And then he spends a little while kind of just there, like waiting to get his board back because they made the choice to make him have no powers at all when he doesn't have the board. I'm fairly certain in the comics he does still have powers, not to mention that he can call the board to him. It's not, but I mean, they needed some. How do you get past Silver Surfer being so much more powerful than the rest of the heroes? This is not the kind of movie that knows what to do with that. If this was the MCU, I don't doubt that they would, yeah, there would be a MacGuffin that managed to separate, that temporarily depowered him or something. Now, I suppose that covers that. I mean, yeah, one thing I will say, in comic books, sometimes, maybe especially in the Silver Age, there are these, kind of lame, you know, not just superhero, but, powered person weaknesses. And, yeah, if it was a Thor movie, and it was based on the Silver Age, and they got his hammer. They managed to keep him from picking up Mjolnir, I think it's for a whole minute. Then he reverts to his human form and has to touch the hammer in order to... So, it's not as though no character in comic books has the kind of weakness that they give the Silver Surfer in this. And we see in this movie, the Thing is really popular with fans. In the first one, it was mostly Johnny. And there are actually deleted scenes where Johnny's really jealous of Ben. Like, he's, in like a toy store, and he's like, telling the clerk his business. Like, you gotta put the Human Torch, boxes at the top. And the clerk's like, actually, the Thing, figure yourself a lot better. And, like, a kid walks in, and he's got, like, Ben Grimm box in his hands, and Johnny's like, hey, Human Torch. And the kid just, like, looks at him and just walks away, quite content with the Thing action figure. And, excuse me, it's the, you don't... I'm not necessarily unhappy. The deleted scenes, they're fine. But anyway, I appreciate that they give Ben that, because he is really popular. And, he is, yeah. But both of them are really popular with fans. But, yeah. Now, and yeah, I appreciate that. I do think this movie really pushes the whole... Johnny is really eager about their brand kind of thing, and it just, I don't know, it feels lame. Maybe it's because, like, they took away the extreme sports thing, and they feel like they gotta have a character trait, other than him just being kind of a jerk to other people. and they settled on the brand, and I don't, yeah, it doesn't really, it doesn't feel that accurate to the comic to me, and also just doesn't, yeah. I get it. I get he enjoys being a celebrity, but there's a difference between that and then being like, you know, yeah. The as an example, I don't really, when I read the comics, I did not. Yes, I did sometimes read Fantastic Four comics. I did not really get the sense that Johnny Storm would be like, guys, look at this. They put a ton of, like, you know, what's corporate logos on our, you know, super suits. I forget what they're called. You know, that just doesn't. Yeah, you know, it's because they wanted to get product placement into the movie, so they make a character be happy with product placement and eager about it. Now, in the commentary track, the director talks about how, you know, Chris Evans is going to be a really big deal. And he doesn't say because of this movie, but he says, you know, soon he'll be a really big deal. And he's not wrong. You know, it's Steve Rogers, not Johnny Storm. He's really a big deal for, but, you know, he didn't even get the, you know, wrong studio, but not wrong, you know, comics publisher. Now, what do you have against capitalism? What do you have against fashion sense? And Reed won't call Johnny John because he does think he's immature. I really like that Ben is a lot more confident in public now. You know, he's dancing. Otherwise, he won't be able to pick it up properly. He might even break it. You know, he's more comfortable. He asks for what he needs, even if it's unusual, and that's reality. You know, that's a healthy way to deal with being different. You know, you might get some odd looks, but you have to, you know. And I'm not blaming people who are not there yet, but it's just, it's healthier when you get there. You're gonna feel a lot better about yourself when you get there, and when you say, yeah, you know, I need this. I happen to be different in that sort of way, and it's not a big deal, you know, because the people, the right people, when they see you don't think it's a big deal, they don't think it's a big deal. Now, let's see. Yeah, you know, like I said in the video for the first one, I think they played too much of it for laughs in the first one. Excuse me, just got to check every so often that the thing hasn't died out. That it's still recording as it should. And I really appreciate that in this one, they, yeah, you know, he has adjusted to it, and that's also, this movie, that might be part of why I kind of like, you know, for the first one, I didn't hate it that much because I was kind of, in part because I was kind of prepared, you know, I remembered most of it. For this one, I really feel like they actually addressed some of the stuff they did wrong in the first one, and one of them was, yeah, you know, there's, is it maybe the riff tracks for the first one where they're like, you know, the body horror, all played for laughs. And yeah, yeah. And I really like seeing Ben Grimm be more confident. He's just, and that is, you know, at first he's like, you know, I can't believe you know, and I mean, it's a sore spot for him, but he does get to be more comfortable in his new skin, as it were. And yeah, I really appreciate it. Now, Reed dancing is not as bad as Emo Parker dancing. And the bachelor party is a cheap way to add conflict between the couple and sexy girls to draw in viewers, you know, into the, you know, Come watch our movie in theaters. We've got sexy girls. I appreciate that it sucks to delay something that is as important to you as your own wedding, but General Hager is absolutely right to chastise Reed about saying no to building the sensor. And there's apparently like a deleted scene, or maybe just a line or some deleted line, something, where like the guy that he recommends, he's like, this guy, Jeffrey something at Brown University, he can build it. And yeah, there's like a deleted line that says that the guy that guy, he wouldn't, excuse me, be able to do it. And yes, I know that at this point, only the audience, no one in the movie actually knows that Earth is in such great danger, but the audience does know, so yeah. Now I gotta think, did they actually put that in the movie, or is it the deleted, like, scene concept kind of thing? In the deleted, I think that's where it is. You see the Silver Surfer flying, he like flies to a planet, and then not long after Galactus comes, really cementing, yes, the Silver Surfer, he's the one who comes first, and then later later Death Cloud, and yeah, again, having just watched it, having only watched it once, and yesterday I watched all the extras, so I'm kind of mixing them. I don't think in the finished movie you see the Silver Surfer in the opening. I don't think you see him connected to Galactus that early, but it does make sense to, well, seems like there might be a connection between the two. And yeah, again, only the audience knows, but the audience does know, and it's frustrating for us seeing the smart guy, the genius, saying, I can't deal with that right now. I have to do something that's about me and my soon-to-be wife, I really have to commend them on Doom's mask. It is ripped right out of the comic books, and I spoke too soon because he rips it off immediately. I know we saw him open his eyes inside the statue in the crate, but how did Doom get from that to outside the box? Does somebody check on him, like, to see if he's opened his eyes, like, come by every so often? Nope, still a statue. Well, gotta get back to other janitorial duties or something. I mean, he didn't, like, get frozen there with, like, a phone or a pager or something. Okay, not a pager, it's way too late for, yeah, pagers were a 90s thing. I really appreciate we get to see Ben and Alicia happy together. At the end of the movie, we even see them kiss. I appreciate it. Could you skip to the end, please? Married in a hurry. Married in a hurry. The helicopter crash is kind of a lame setup for a tense scene, but it does work, and it allows the team to use their powers for good, not just lame gags like up to this point in the movie. The flight race is fairly nicely done, if ultimately not really accomplishing anything besides showing off effects. I'd like to thank the filmmakers for deciding not to let the camels spit on Johnny, which I honestly did expect it to. Maybe it tested poorly. And, it does still get a reaction that he's, oh, there's a camel in front of him. That's, it's not high comedy, and I'm not sure I'd call it funny. But then, some reviewers point out they're basically aiming for children with both of these movies. A lot of the comedy is aimed at children. The couple of lines making fun of the surfboard and the fact that he's silver are necessary in a movie that stays this close to reality overall, and I don't think that they reach obnoxious or mocking the comic book levels. And that is genuinely something that easily could have happened. I really wish Sue worrying about the wedding didn't come off so sexist, but it really does feel like it's just, women care about weddings, and just, yeah. I didn't write it down at the time, not sure why, but when she, just before she says, I can feel your pulse, calming down. You know, when Reed is stressed about getting the machine to work, and she's like, "Sit down." It's maybe I'm not sure I'd say it's funny, but I acknowledge that the movie not appreciate I acknowledge that the movie is trying to be funny. I just don't get how she does it. Are they saying that she is physically stronger than him? It feels like they should have just had her use, you know, the force fields or something. Just like have her stick a force field right above the top of his head so he literally can't or something. But yeah, as it is, it just yeah. The timing on the third guy walking into Invisible Johnny, tripping over him, yeah, that's pretty decent comedic timing. How did Doom know to track the cosmic energy? I get, you know, the reason he found the surfer in Greenland, we see the scanner display in the helicopter, so clearly that's how he found him. But how did he, you know, yeah. And I know in the first movie he was watching the team via surveillance cameras. But how could he possibly be doing that this time? You know, did the team make the how the scanner works public knowledge or something? Alicia's kind of becoming a character who just always says the right thing. She doesn't really have personality. She's just useful and helps says, you know, the moral lesson or the right thing to do. You know, it's like, oh, but you have to let the, you know, Reed and Sue will tell you when they're ready to tell you. And yeah, just, and again, I'm sorry, but it feels like it's a very the African American character thing to say. It's a very female character to say. And it's actually kind of a blind character thing to say. So they really, yeah, hit all the checkboxes there. What is wrong with you people? Acting, writing, casting. I've got a list. I'm glad to see the team helping rescue people and solve things that they didn't cause. You know, in the first movie, it's basically, it's them causing it or it's doing it to them and then they have to fight it off. You know, and just after I made that note, Johnny flies into Reed and it starts being their fault again. Why does it take Reed so much less time to master flying than Sue? Both of them only had Johnny's powers for a little while. I mean, she's used to having two powers. He's, you know, literally, he's just used to being able to reach further. It seems like that would be easier to master than, like, force fields that you have, you know, that get shaped. Later in the movie, she puts two soldiers in ball force fields. You know, I get that she's at this point had a while to get good at her powers, but it seems like that would take more effort to get good at that. Get that good at using powers, then yeah, being able to reach really far. So it seems to me that she should have been the one to be able to master flying faster, you know, but yeah, and not, yeah, obviously the scene itself is purely there to get her naked. Now, I appreciate that Ben listens to Reed about letting Victor go. You know, he didn't listen to the general, and Reed didn't immediately listen to the general either. It was, you know, he's here, what was it he said? And, you know, I asked him to come. I appreciate that Doom is good at tech in these movies. At least they get that right about his character. I do find funny that the first shot of the montage of he and Reed doing sign stuff is just him looking at a screen while Reed is doing stuff. I kind of wish that, like, if there's footage for it, like, for someone to edit together an alternate one where he's always the one watching Reed do the thing, but yeah. I appreciate that the idea is he is kind of leeching off Reed. He's using Reed more than necessarily pulling his weight. And the surfer can move through her force field as if it's not even there. The military firing on Silver Surfer and him attacking back is cool, if stupid, and really that's the action in a nutshell. in a deleted scene, there's this thing where like the military hit the Fantastic Four in the base. I think they are, which is again just the whole conflict where it's sort of the military getting violent, more than the surfer, is really stupid. And is it a military contract thing? Maybe I'm not entirely sure if this movie did do that, but yeah, it just makes the army look stupid, and yeah. And then you have the crap. What was I gonna say? Yeah, in the deleted thing where the army had, Reed stops bullets by like covering the other members. I think that the surfer might have been there and they were shooting at the surfer. I forget exactly. But the can rubber stop bullets? It seems like it would just like, I guess if he wasn't, but he's stretching though. Like if he turned like really thick, I guess maybe the bullets would kind of bounce off. But it just, yeah, maybe that's why they deleted it. Somebody suddenly realized, oh hey, this makes no sense. When she's watching the Silver Surfer through the wall, you could sort of see Sue's emotion, even though she's almost entirely invisible because you can see her eyes. But it's, you can't see it as much because it's Jessica Alba or the special effects team emulating Jessica Alba. As of right before Doom steals the board, he does look a lot like he does in the books. It's, yeah, I appreciate that. Yep. Which he did. Yeah, he didn't wear the armor at all in the first. Did he? I don't think he did. But yeah, he puts on the mask because he's scarred and he wants to cover the scars. And it's, they still. I don't know about the 1994. Yeah, I put it in the description box as well. But I checked. My libraries do not have it, and I haven't found like a online store where you can buy it. It was never released, so it's less likely. It's not as easy to find a copy of it as with stuff that went to theaters. But so I don't know for that. But in the three movies that were released, it's like they don't even get close to what his scars are supposed to look like. It's not just like metal kind of. It almost kind of looks like he's partially melted. Like when you see close-ups in the comics of his face, it looks like part of the top of his eyes like dripping down to the bottom. That's what it's supposed to look like. That's why he wears a mask. It's not because he's a little self-conscious about some like metal kind of, yeah. I do still think, and we're back, I guess. Now, if I recall correctly, actually I have no idea. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and assume that not a lot was lost because I can't check before without stopping recording. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and assume that not a lot was lost. So, I was talking about Doctor Doom and his... it seems to be there. Yeah, melting from the top of his eye down to the bottom, like drippy kind of, that's what it looks like in the comics. Again, I don't hate the way they did. Maybe that's what triggered it. I almost said something positive about the 2015 reboot. I don't hate the way they did it. Doom's face in that. It's just not Doctor Doom, that's all. But yeah, if it was an original character, I'd be perfectly fine with it. Now, let's see. Yeah, and Ben, and then you see Reed getting stuck in the wall. It was not terrible. Frankie has no reason to trust Johnny. He she read his personality profile, and then she's talking about, like, all I saw was a guy who almost got his team killed. And yeah, that's absolutely true. And then he runs up and it's like, please trust me. Why? You have done nothing to show it. You know, it's this kind of stuff that really, it hurts the characterization of these movies a lot. People kind of just trust Johnny even though he constantly screws up. He screws up and barely ever does the right thing and does the heroic thing, you know. Now, I do think the Fantastic Car is really cool. It looks the way it should from the comic, but then it doesn't really, all they just use it to fly around Doom for a little bit, and that's it. You know, it's just, they get some of the stuff in there, but then they don't know what to do with it. Same as in both of these movies, whenever Doom attacks, it's just, why is... Okay, so he's trying to kill the Fantastic Four, but it's kind of... He's... Yeah, I talked enough about that in the first one, I think. In the video on the first one. It's annoying that the Surfer spends so long without the board, but at least he did have a good amount of time on it first, and we saw him use his powers some. For the time the movie spends on Reed inventing and developing tech stuff, when it comes to, you know, defeating the Destroyer, yeah, I'm sorry, I have a hard time calling him Galactus because that's not Galactus, and it's not only the fact that he doesn't look right at all. Anyway, yeah, that's not Reed doing it. Couldn't it at least have required the tachyon pulse that they used to separate the Surfer from the board to assist? You know, maybe for tension you could have it like need to charge, and then Silver Surfer and Johnny has to hold off the Destroyer until it's charged, and then once it's charged, okay, go, you know, and he presses the button and it fires, and the two of them attack, and together they just barely defeat him. Instead, it's just, you know, he flies up and, like, you know, I have had enough of you, and like uses the, you know, the cosmic force in order to, you know, defeat Galactus. Some people have brought up, it's like with the you know, the first Ghost Rider live action movie. How can he use the powers against the guy who gave him the powers in the first place? Couldn't that guy just take them away? Yeah, I think a bigger issue is the fact that if he can do it by himself, even though it means sacrificing himself, you know, why didn't he do it much sooner? You know, he's helped kill countless people. You know, I get that, you know, the reason he's especially cares now is because of Sue, you know, and he also brought her back to life, which I'm sure that certainly can't do in the comics. It just, if that's all it takes, you know, I get that means he's also, he's sacrificing himself, but if he's going to sacrifice himself, are we literally saying he saw a girl who reminds him of his wife? It's not, he doesn't seem to have forgotten about her. It's not like, oh, wow, that's, oh, right, my wife, this is why, you know, no, he's perfectly comfortable with, yeah, so, anyway, yeah, okay, so he uses his powers, thinking about it, it can't have lost much footage, right? Because I look at the camera every so often, and if it's blue, it means it's on. It would make more sense if it was red, but anyway, for like record. Yes, using the powers against the entity who just granted you those powers. I think it would make a lot of sense if you at least saw the entity trying to take back the powers. But ultimately, I mean, there's if you feed enough power into like a, you know, a power plant, it's gonna blow up, you know. So it is possible to destroy something using the power that it itself is creating or feeding on or something, you know. But yeah, why doesn't he try to stop it? And again, that could be where the tachyon pulse comes in. You know, the surfer's like, I feel him draining my power, you have to hurry. Now, let's see. In the commentary, the director talks about, you know, Johnny having all 4 powers is like Super Skrull. I appreciate that. I'm not going to get into, you know, you've got Google, you've got Wikipedia, the access, but it makes no sense in the context of the film that suddenly you can have all 4 powers instead of it swapping. And yes, it makes for a fairly cool fight scene. And the Silver Surfer getting to be Silver again once he is on the board is a good way to visualize whether or not he does have the powers. I've seen some say that Chris Evans is like Steve Rogers in real life. I'd add that he has Johnny Storm's streak of wanting to have fun and not always being responsible. I think the ending hook is decent. You know, something. What was it like? Was it Venice sinking? Maybe. Oh, maybe we should sell it. Make millions. Nobody's gonna get that reference. Moving on to notes taken before watching. Now, I noted whether, you know, does Silver Surfer only fly, or does he get to fight too? You know, flight is cool, but fighting is important in action films. He doesn't especially get, I mean, okay, so he absorbs 1 missile, and then they fire a bunch on him, which he stops, and then they fire some more on him, and then he unleashes fire on them. You know, so yeah, like I said, you know, at least there's some action, but it's kind of stupid. And the Silver Surfer does not have, you know, is my voice going through? Okay. I am gonna have to look into preventing that from happening in the future. That was at least the 2nd time that it cut out. But if I recall, it does still. Well, yeah, never mind. I am almost done anyway. So what was I? I was gonna answer. Yeah, okay. So the Silver Surfer's powers, you know, in the MCU, they did Vision right, and he has a lot of powers, and we get to see him use those powers and such. And no, it is not okay. It is not only because CGI has developed and action movies move faster today than they did in 2007. Let's see, I was going to say, yeah, okay, so in the movie, he can absorb force and then spit it back out, and he can fly using the board. He can shoot cosmic force, which is why Doom heals from the wounds. And this is clarified in the, I think, commentary track. Yeah. And let's see, you know, it's again, it's like the cosmic force caused the damage, and then it undoes it with the, yeah, let's see, the I guess, is that more or less what he can do? Yeah, you know, in the comics, he has more powers. I don't remember all of them. I'm not an expert on the Fantastic Four. Now, I also asked, does it have a good amount of action? Decent, really. It's some of the scenes are more that bad things are happening, and the Fantastic Four try to limit the damage and get people safe, more than, you know, people fighting each other, but I think it has a decent amount of tension. You know, the trailer kind of makes it look like it has great action, but I think it's cut better in the trailer. And, you know, arguably, you know, the surfer is silly in look and powers, and the fact that he rides a surfboard. You know, in 1966, when the surfer was created, it didn't seem as silly as it does today. You know, he flies through space on a surfboard. His skin is silver colored. Some things work on a comic page, but not in live action. And yeah, they should have made MCU type changes to make him look better on screen. They changed the Destroyer, you know, so the Devourer. I For a lot of the movie he's not silver, and maybe that's where they, you know, that when he's not on the board, he's not silver. So maybe that was where they decided to, yeah. And that would be the third time it cut out. Yeah. Even just his name, Silver Surfer, and he is literally a dude who's got silver skin covering his body. He's naked, and he rides a surfboard. You know, in the 60s, everybody thought, you know, kids thought surfing was the coolest thing ever. So, yeah, it was like, okay, so he can surf in space. Yes, sign me up, you know, but yeah, the I don't necessarily think that that's a bad, yeah, you know, the it's difficult because the Devourer and the Silver Surfer are major characters in the Fantastic Four. And just them saying, you know, we're gonna have the Silver Surfer and the Devourer in the second movie, you know, that's, yeah, you know, if people didn't know that that was going to happen, if they hadn't put it in the subtitle and trailer, I don't know that this movie would have done, I mean, it didn't do that well anyway, but it would have done a lot worse. But yeah, it's, let's see, but yeah, and I also noted, you know, the cosmic energy of the Surfer's blast heals Doom's body. What a stupid cop-out way to deal with his scars. You know, again, it just, if you can't do it properly, either change it enough to where you can sort of do it, or just get someone else to do the movie. You know, there's a lot of people who could do it right. If this had gotten, like, if the first movie had gotten like Kevin Feige with a lot of control behind it, I think it would have really worked. And I do hope, excuse me, I do hope that we get a good. Actually, now did the deal kind of not go through? So I guess the MCU can't use the Fantastic Four. Anyway, I'm not gonna pretend I understand corporate stuff. I don't need it to be part of the MCU. I would like it to be, but I just want a good movie featuring them, you know. Now, and I do think that's, yeah. Now, apparently, the Devourer's design was not, you know, as of March 2nd, 2007, his design was not yet done, and yeah, that's kind of, I guess that's part of why it doesn't look done in the final film. And by April 18th, until hiring Lawrence Fishburne to perform the voice of the Silver Surfer, the filmmakers were unsure of whether the character would speak. That is a huge decision, and with it being made so late, yeah, you know, it kind of like, I mean, the movie would not work anywhere near as well, you know, if he didn't, he speaks entirely in exposition. He just says, you know, here's my backstory, here's the guy who's coming after me, you know, excuse me, all this stuff. And yeah, yeah, it ended up kind of just being a shortcut to have him speak. And yeah, as a lot of critics point out, the movie's too dumb and child-oriented, and then yet it has, a Gitmo reference. You have the military performing torture on the surfer, and like, you know, he literally says, if you were a human being, I wouldn't be able to do this to you, but because you're not human, I get to do what I want. That's not literally his line, but yeah, that's the implication. Less extreme sports. I really appreciate that. Basically, it's completely gone, and I'm not sure by 2007. I'm not sure people still really cared. I don't think it was still that popular. I think the movies that were capitalizing on it had all come and gone. The Was it even still that popular by 2005? Was it maybe because they had written it into the script earlier and then it was just left there for later? I don't know. Now, let's see. Yeah, and again, another issue. Do they spend a lot of time trying to solve the problem smartly using science? They do a couple of sciencey things, rebuilds the scanner to find where the Silver Surfer is going to go next, so they know it before it's too late to do anything about it. And then he builds the tachyon pulse thing, but that's it. He doesn't build anything to deal with the Devourer. Really, if again, that could easily have been something, okay, I get that he doesn't spend that long in lab, but have him fiddle with a thing and then be like, I modified the tachyon pulse, something, something that the surfer said made me think. But instead it's just, well, gotta get the board back to the surfer and then the surfer will deal with things. If your movie's big science fiction plot is that the way to deal with the threat is to use part of the threat that, if the threat consists of two individuals and the one that comes first just kind of says, okay, I'll help you, you need to work harder on making your sci-fi plot work. Again, it's not easy. It's not easy to come up with compelling science fiction. But again, there are so many people who can do it well. Get some good Star Trek writers in on this thing. Something. There's no excuse for it being so. And we're back. Right. Almost done here. But yeah, I can't help but wonder, maybe it should have been another prominent Fantastic Four villain. And again, I'm not an expert, so I went to Wikipedia. Let's see, some of the, yeah, the Kirby helped create an army of villains whose rage and destructive power had never been seen before, and whose primary impulse is to smash the world. And that makes for compelling, action. And yeah, some of the team's oldest and most frequent, and these have involved such foes. You've got Mole Man. I don't think he would have been that. Basically, he lives underground. And I think he's got like an army. Yeah, you probably have to involve space in some kind. You've got the Skrulls, which, if you're not going to introduce their home world, and it's difficult to deal with in a movie as small as this. Namor the Submariner, which also means you have to establish that he has an underwater kingdom. The thing with Galactus, can't believe I called him that. The thing with the Devourer is you just kind of have to say he's coming from out there, he's coming to here, he's going to destroy stuff. They did even include the fact that he does it because he needs to devour in order to survive. So yeah, you don't have to establish a ton of other stuff. and the surfer, well, he talks about how his home planet was spared for his service. So yeah. And Doctor Doom, the Puppet Master, King the Conqueror, Blastar, Frightful Foreign, Nihilus, Claw, and Claw also wouldn't have as seen in the MCU. Let's see, and you got Wizard, Impossible Man, Red Ghost, Super Skrull, Molecule Man, Ronan the Accuser, Salem Sanders. Yeah, I'm not. I guess overall it was about as good as we were gonna get for choice of villain. But maybe if the movie had just focused on, honestly, just get rid of the wedding stuff. Maybe just say, you know what, this movie we're not going to focus as much on the family stuff. The first movie was about that. Now we've established the characters. Let's focus on making the villain compelling and just immediately have the characters realize about the Devourer much sooner. I mean, I think the movie's like half over by the time the characters are told about the Devourer at all. Before it was just that, oh well, the surfer goes here, and then later the planet is gone, and they think that he's the one doing it, so they torture him to get him to, fess up basically, and to give them information so they can, but yeah. And like in the first movie, once Doom has incredible power, he just uses it to destroy stuff and attack the Fantastic Four. I realize it can be difficult to come up with a goal for the bad guy that makes sense for him to do and looks cool when the good guys try to stop it. But in these two movies, it seems like they're not even trying. And this one was written, unlike the first one, by one of the writers of Thor 1 and Thor 2. I almost said this one was written, unlike the first one. That's, of course, a terrible joke. Neither of these were written. Tim Story refuses to put giant robots in his movies, and, technically, the Devourer isn't quite a robot, he just resembles a giant robot, but Tim Story does not want to put giant robots in his movies. Then maybe don't do a movie adaptation of a comic series that has tons of robots in it. I guess we should feel lucky he didn't cut the space stuff as well. Just, again, I'm sorry, but there are a lot of people who would kill for your job, dude. And they would actually be able to do, just, everybody has opinions. Everybody, and some people don't like giant robots. I'm not saying that, but then why are you doing this franchise? It's so stupid. And that just right then and there, the moment that he says, I don't want to depict the major villain as what he is in the comics, you should just right there say, well, thank you for being honest, we're going to get another director. He should have said that before they, long before pre-production, when they first talked about, let's do another movie, they should have been like, well, maybe Galactus, and he should have been like, you mean the Devourer? Because I don't like to do giant robots. Excellent, thanks for telling us. Get lost, and we're just, yeah. As the IMDb trivia points out, the shadow as he passes by Saturn and the fiery mass within the cloud do resemble the signature helmet. I appreciate that. They put more effort in than absolutely nothing. I appreciate that, but it is still just baffling that just, so you'll do the Silver Surfer, you'll do a guy who's on fire, all this other stuff, but just not, that's one bridge too far. It just, yeah. Anyway, that is all of my notes, and let's see if I can end the video before it cuts out again. Once again, I'm not unhappy that I watched this movie. And I did, honestly, like months ago, I was like, do I really want to watch this movie at all? Do I want to rewatch the 2005 one, but yeah, there's just they're not as bad as they could have been. They're not as inaccurate to the comics as they could have been. And I greatly appreciate that. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching as I enjoyed recording, and I'll see you next time.